Hi, I'm Shoemaker, and today is day 60 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on doing at least 2 things every day I don't want to do, but I know would be good for me. So yay for day 60! Only 40 days to go, and I can't believe I made it to day 60. Oh yeah, and only 40 days to go. The 40 days are going to kill me, I think, but maybe it'll get easier. I'm still waiting for that to happen. So today I got up super early, I think just because I'm getting in the habit of getting up early for work. And technically I slept in like an hour later than I normally do to get up for work, but seriously, 6:30 in the morning is way too early to be awake. And I totally could have gone back to sleep, but then my brain was thinking of all the stuff that I need to do today, and then I know once that happens, I'm not going to go back to sleep because I didn't make my video for yesterday. I didn't write in my journal for yesterday, so I needed to get up and do that this morning. And it's General Conference weekend, and I love General Conference weekend. But I haven't been very good at watching General Conference for probably the last several years. I've watched like 1 or 2 sessions out of the 5 sessions they have over a two-day period, Saturday and Sunday, twice a year, and I just have struggled to watch Conference. And I used to watch it all the time. I loved watching Conference. I've always loved watching Conference, and I would listen to it. Like I had an MP3 player when I was a truck driver, and I would listen to that when I was driving because it was hard to find radio stations, and they would constantly changing cities and time zones and everything else, and the radio would constantly in and out because you're not in one place long enough to have like regular stations or adjust it to regular stations. So I had an MP3 player, and I downloaded Conference, and then I'm like, hey, it's 2 hours, and I would listen to every 2 hours, and I'd know exactly how much time it was, how much time had come by, and then I would stop and take a break and all of that stuff, and it just made the time fly, and I loved it. So I've kind of been sad that I haven't been doing that for the last several years, probably since my divorce. Just struggled to watch Conference, or when I have watched it, I watched it with other people around making noises and distractions, so I'm not really getting as much out of Conference. So I've been trying to get back into doing that, and so I had this goal this weekend that I'm going to watch Conference, and like all 5 sessions of it. So there were 3 today. 3! And the first one was at 9 o'clock. So getting up at 6:30, and I ended up spending 2 hours writing in my journal. And I wanted to go to my parents' house for breakfast because they do food, and I could spend the day there and get all of my stuff done. And I had all planned out in my head. And that did not happen, which was really annoying to me because it just was. But by the time it was 8:30 by the time I was showered and dressed. And I was like, okay, I got half an hour and I could just run over there and do that. But then I was praying, and I was thinking about all the stuff that I wrote in my journal this morning and all the stuff from my day yesterday and all that stuff that I got out. And I thought, I just need to make my video while I'm thinking about it, because otherwise I'm going to forget all of it. It's going to all be caught up in everything in Conference, and that's what's going to be on my mind. And yesterday will be hard to remember. And so I did my video, and by the time I was done with that, it was already 9:15. So I'm like, already late for Conference, which is not what I wanted to do. And then I needed food. So I made pancakes for breakfast because I did not get to go to my parents' house, which I wanted to do. But I'm very grateful that they have it like on YouTube and on their website, and you can like, even though it's live, you can just hit the rewind button and go back to where they're at, so you can watch it from the beginning without having to miss all of it. So I watched it from the beginning, but I was an hour late into it. And then of course I intended to read my scriptures and meditationals and then go to my parents' house for the second session. And then I got distracted. I did read my scriptures and meditationals and did my writing, and I was like, okay, this is good. And then I know at the beginning of the second session they do a bunch of business stuff that's not always, I mean, it's necessary, and I understand that it's necessary, but I find it to be kind of boring, the business side of things that they have to do, and I, not missing any of the talks, so I figured I could still be like a few minutes late and still go to my parents' house. But then I decided to try to fill out my W-9 form and my contract for my editing for my publisher, and so because that was all my things that I wanted to do today, so I did that, and I just didn't want to watch the second session of Conference. I wanted to work on that. I wanted to work on the contract, and I didn't do the contract at that point. I only did the W-9, and I started looking up stuff because I was confused about the wording. And then I finally realized that I was overthinking it, and that I actually did it right, and it was fine. But I did a whole bunch of looking stuff up and trying to figure it out, like I screwed it all up, and I was like, oh. And then it was like obvious. And at that point, again, it was like almost 1:30, and the session started at 1 o'clock, and I was like, fine, I'll just watch it. So I started to watch it, and then I was just kind of playing on my phone during the boring part, and then I paused it and finished playing on my phone, which was not the best because I just didn't want to watch the second session. I don't know. I think I just felt done after the first one. I was like, I'm just done because it's a lot. It's good. It's very good. And I love conference. But it's very spiritually intense and it's very, can be emotional. And sometimes being immersed in spiritual things can be very draining. But it's a very good thing. It's a very good experience. It's very uplifting. It's very helpful. But at the same time, it's exhausting until you get used to it and you build up to it. And at one point in my life, I was totally surrounded by that, and I was built up for it, and I was good with it. And I'm sure there were points in my life where I'm like, we would watch conference growing up, and we were just cleaning the house and doing other things or crocheting while conference was going, and so I wasn't as spiritually in tune to it. And I think I got to a point after my divorce and watching conference that I felt like I had to be responsible for everything that I learned in conference, and I didn't want to be responsible for anything else in my life right now. And now I want to learn, and I want to be responsible, and I want to have that peace and that comfort. But I've, been away from it for so long that it's not 100% away from it, just not as immersed in it as I used to be. And now I want to immerse myself more into it than I ever have in my life, which is amazing to me. And probably because I've been doing these videos and because I've been spending the time journaling and reading my scriptures and meditationals and praying to see myself the way that God sees me, and seeing things in my life change because I've been getting closer to God and recognizing Him in my life. And so I want more of that in my life. I want things to be better in my life. And I know that with God's help, I can get there and I can have the things in my life that I want. So I want to absorb as much as I possibly can. But I think that means I'm more immersed into it. I pay more attention, or I want to pay more attention to it. And I just, I hit a certain point where I'm just like, I'm done, and I have to push through that point. So today I had to push through that point for the second session of conference, and I was not doing a very good job. I was fighting myself on that one the whole time. And then I started watching it, and then I kind of laid down in a slightly more comfortable position because I was tired, because I really only got 5 or 6 hours of sleep last night. And it's calming and it's relaxing watching conference, and you hear all these nice soothing voices and soothing words, and and then I fell asleep. I didn't mean to fall asleep. So I woke up. I didn't sleep for very long, probably like maybe 2 or 3 talks, maybe half an hour. So it wasn't very long, but see, I have this thing when there's noises or stuff in the background. So when it changes, when I'm sleeping, I will wake up again because I'm a very light sleeper. So I fell asleep to the lull of one talk, and then I woke up to the voice of something else, and I was like, this is not who I was watching before. So then I had to wake myself up. I had to sit up in a sitting position, which I did not want to do, and then I had to rewind it. So I ended up being like, I don't know, instead of it being over at 3 o'clock, it was after 4. It was like 4:15 by the time I finished watching it, because I'd gotten so far behind. And of course the next session started at 5 o'clock, and I'm like, great, I have like 45 minutes until the next session starts. And so I decided to try to figure out my contract, which I knew I could handwrite, but I also knew it was supposed to be a fillable Adobe file. So I wanted to figure out how to do it. And then it looked like it kept trying to open and it wasn't opening. And it finally dawned on me that if I started closing all my windows, that there was something in the background that was popping up. And sure enough, there was something in the background that was popping up. And once I clicked on that, it opened up. It opened up to a Google Docs, and I had to sign into something so that it would let me just do Adobe Reader on my computer. And I had to do it through the internet because the Adobe Reader that I have is outdated. And so now everything is like through the internet instead of like a program on your computer, which I think is kind of dumb, because I'd just rather use the program that's already on my computer, but it wouldn't let me use the reader that's already on my computer, which again, I think is dumb. So once I signed in online, then it let me use the program on my computer, which makes absolutely no sense to me. But then I was able to fill it out so I could email it back to my publisher. So I was excited about that. So I emailed back my contract. And then I emailed her some other information, and then I let her know that I was still working on my book, because I haven't worked on my book all day today, and that was my goal. I was going to do like an hour or something in between each session of conference, and I was going to get a whole bunch of it done today, and I haven't done any of it today, which I'm, again, annoyed with that. But I did fill out my W-9, and I I did watch all 3 sessions of conference. I didn't start the last one until probably like 5:15 or 5:30. So it was still a little bit late because I was emailing my publisher, which probably could have waited, but I was in the middle of doing that and I wanted to finish what I was doing. And again, I knew that it didn't matter when I started it, I could still watch it from the beginning and it didn't matter. So I do appreciate that we have the technology to do that. So it's not like I have to be there right on time, which is fantastic for me. And then of course, I paused it several times, probably making it take like closer to, another 15-20 minutes on top of that, because I liked what was being said and I wanted to write it down. And I was totally immersed in the last session that they had today. In fact, when it ended, I was like waiting for more, and I was like, it ended early. There's supposed to be more. There's supposed to be another talk. I want more. And I just thought that was such an interesting change, because I didn't want to watch the second session. I was done, and I wanted to do my other stuff. I wanted to work on my book. I wanted to do my dishes. I wanted to clean my house. I didn't want to clean my house. I wanted to do my dishes. I wanted to do my contract. I wanted to do my to-do list. And but I wanted to do this goal of watching all of conference again, to immerse myself in that and in the Savior and getting to know him and in spiritual things, to help give me that boost that I need to get my goals met and to focus on my life, to feel like I'm a human being. Because seriously, when I focus on spiritual things, I feel like I'm a person. I feel relaxed. I feel comfortable in who I am and what's going on in my life. I don't stress as much. And I'm okay with my everyday things and my surroundings, and I can actually enjoy life and smile and laugh and not stress. And when I'm not immersed in spiritual things, I worry about everything. I stress about everything. I get depressed. I get discouraged. I feel overwhelmed by life in general. It's not fun. So immersing myself in spiritual things helps me emotionally feel better about life. It helps me feel like everything is doable instead of being overwhelming. And I want that more in my life. So I just thought it was very interesting that this is one of those times I had to push through and do something that I'm like, I knew I wanted it to do it, but I didn't want to have to take the steps to do it. And I didn't want to have to watch conference to get there, but I did it today. And then by the time the 3rd session rolled around, I was enjoying it, and I was taking even more detailed notes and pausing and rewinding so that I could get all the information written down. And then I just wanted more. And I'm so grateful there's more tomorrow. But I was like, I want more tonight. And working on my book didn't seem as high a priority anymore. And then, of course, I was hungry and I needed to do dishes. So I did dishes. And I found a spot when I took out my trash earlier that I didn't want to, I'd spilled something on the floor. When I put something in the trash can, it spilled over. Probably from the looks of it, it was some of the cherry pie filling from the cheesecake I made for my son like a week ago. And probably there was just some drops or something that didn't make it into the trash can, and it just spilled over. And I didn't notice that until I went to take out the trash, and I was like, ew, and it's all goopy on the floor. And I didn't mess with it the first time I took out the trash, but then for some reason it was bothering me when I was doing the dishes, so I actually cleaned up my floor. So this tiny little spot that's all cleaned up on my kitchen floor because I wanted to clean up the goopy stuff. And then I decided to cut into my spaghetti squash, which I didn't really want to do because it's a lot of work and it's hard, but I'm like hungry and it sounds so yummy to have hamburger and spaghetti squash and cilantro and put it all together. It's such a yummy meal. So my spaghetti squash is cooking right now and my oven is smoking, which I don't know why it's doing that. It's annoying to me. But I'm letting it cook because I still want my spaghetti squash. And then when my spaghetti squash is done cooking, I will let it cool while I make my hamburger, which gives me time to do this. And then maybe I will have time later to work on my book, and maybe I won't because I'm tired and I need to go to bed. But I also didn't want to take my ADHD medication twice today, but I did. I took it this morning like I was supposed to, and I took it this afternoon like I'm supposed to, and I think it's actually helping just a little bit. And I definitely know that watching conference is helping, and I am grateful for that, and I am grateful that my stubbornness kicked in and I made myself rewind and watch the stuff that I fell asleep through and made myself do that, and I wish I would do that when it comes to finishing my book and some of the other things that I want to do in my life, because it's not necessarily stubbornness, it's determination, and I've got that stubborn determination, and sometimes it works for me really well for my benefit, and sometimes it just gets me in trouble and I just do stupid stuff. So, because I do have that belief that like when I get really stubborn about something, then I'm just being stupid. But if I get really determined about something, I think it can be a really good thing, especially if I'm determined to finish doing stuff that are good things in my life, like determined to do these videos and determined to do at least 2 things every day I don't want to do, and determined to watch conference even if I'm thinking I'm so done and I'm so tired and there's so many other things that I could be doing right now, and choosing to make that the priority in my life, even though I didn't really want to today. And I'm grateful that I did that, and I'm grateful that I chose to clean up that little spot in my kitchen because it makes me feel better, and I'm grateful that I followed through with that. And then I was looking at the list of stuff that my publisher sent me that she wants me to send back to her, and one of them was like a headshot for a picture. So I'm like, I sent her one that I had, but it was done like 10 years ago or over 10 years ago, and I'm like, I don't look quite the same. I mean, my face is kind of the same, but it's not quite the same, and I don't know if that's quite works for a headshot because it's not really a headshot. And I was like, well, it's kind of professionally done. A friend did it for me. It looks really cool, but I don't, that's over 10 years old. I don't have a whole lot of gray or white hair since then. I've just put on a lot of weight since then, so I can't fit into the same outfit as I did. And of course I had my glasses on, which I don't really want a picture with my glasses on. And it's kind of a full body pose with a, pond and a lake behind it, which is really cool, but it's not really a headshot for a book cover. So, and again, because I didn't go to my parents' house today, I couldn't ask, but I sent a text message to Dad Shoemaker. I'm like, hey, can you do a headshot for me? And he said yes. So I don't know when he's going to do it for me, but hopefully he will get that done sometime this week. So again, one more thing I didn't really want to have to do, because I really don't want to have to dress up and get my picture taken for a headshot. I'm not sure I really even want my picture on a book cover, and I'm not sure I really even want to do a bio for myself. Kind of looked up how to do a bio, but not really wanting to do one. I don't like writing about myself. I mean, I don't mind when it's in my characters in my books and it's just a representation of myself, but it's not actually me, and I can make myself be whatever I want for the story, and it works just fine. But when it actually has to be me, and it has to be truthful, and it has to be, also be entertaining, and it has to be written in the third person, like somebody else is writing it for me, but I'm writing it about myself, I'm not very good at those things. So I just kind of like doing a blurb for the back of the book, and I'm like, I'm not very good for that either, which she did not tell me I had to do a blurb for the back of my book. And I'm like, yay, because I've attempted multiple times to do a blurb for my book and it hasn't come out very good, but that was not on the list of things that I had to send her. So I sent her the other things, and the only things I didn't send was the W-9, the bio, because I haven't figured out how to write that one yet. And I did send her a headshot, but I need to send her another one because I don't think that picture will work. And I didn't send her my book because I haven't gone through all of it and made all of the necessary changes before it got sent to the other editors. So I'm just kind of like, all right, well, I'm down to like 3, maybe 4 things I still have to do for this, but I can do it. And hopefully I can get it done in the next week, because it should have already been done up to this point. But then I also realized today that I do a lot of thinking and ruminating, and I get information, and my brain doesn't process information right away. And it takes me a while to come up with an idea and decide if I like it or not. I remember when I bought my first house, my townhouse, that I no longer have. My realtor, she took me to several different places, and the place that I looked at, I liked it, and I liked the stuff that it had in there, but I didn't like the furnishings, and I didn't like the lighting and the fixtures and whatever. And I was just kind of like, because it was just dark and dreary, and I was like, I don't really like this. But I kept ruminating about it and thinking about it. And like 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, you know what? I want that house. And she's like, well, let me see if it's still on the market. I was like, you're lucky it's still on the market, because it's going really fast at that point. And I was like, yep. And she's like asking me all the questions, what made me decide to have it. And we did all these deals and everything else like that. I'm like, okay, cool. And I got my townhouse, which is fantastic. And it's what I wanted, but it just took me a while to like think about it and to be able to picture it in a different setting than the setting that it was in, and realize that I could make it whatever was mine. And I think that's the same thing with like comments and suggestions about my book and the powers and the things like that, that it takes me a while to ruminate in it, to figure it out, to be like, okay, so how can I make this work and have it still be mine and have it still represent the story I want it to represent and have it work. And so now I've kind of finally figured that out. But now it's going to take me that whole other week to go through my book to do it. And it just took me 2 weeks to get there. So I kind of feel bad. And I'm hoping in the future that there's not a whole bunch of things like that, because I'm supposed to only have it for 2 weeks. So like, might be an issue for me. I know deadlines help me to do stuff, but I don't like feeling rushed, because I don't feel like I do as good of a job when I'm rushed. And so I know she said I could take my time and sending all that stuff back to her, which I'm grateful for, but I don't want to take too much time because I don't want to lose the spot and I don't want to lose this opportunity. So more things I just have to figure out how to get myself to do in the future. But right now I'm going to go figure out how to make the rest of my dinner and what else I'm going to do before I go to bed tonight. Mostly probably just going to eat and write in my journal and maybe work on my book. But everything else I think is done. I even did laundry. Ooh, I have to do more laundry. Oh, I don't want to do more laundry. That's what I get. I didn't wash my clothes and now I just have to like hang them up because I don't have a dryer. So I have to hang them up and it's just a pain in the butt. But I will do it. Anyway, that's all I have for today. So if you like these videos, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think they'll like it too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe find one or two things that you don't want to do, but you know would be good for you.